Booger McFarland with the mothership. He's an analyst on Monday Night Football. On Christmas Eve, Booger and the guys, Joe Tessitore, Jason Witten, and Lisa Salters, have the regular season finale, the Broncos and the Raiders, 8:15 Eastern on ESPN. Booger, do you think you could take Jason Witten in the octagon?
Witt's a big guy, man. He's about 6'5", and, he started out at about 240. He's probably closer to 250 now that we've been on the road all year. So that would be a battle. I like to think low man still wins, as in football. So, me being only 6'1", I think I like my chances.
What did you weigh when you played?
My highest, Dan, was about 315.
Wow. Is it harder to put it on or take it off?
Come on now. You've been living a long time. You already know the answer to that one. I got up to about 330, Dan, after I got done playing pretty easily. Loading on the carbs with the mac and cheese. I grew up in the country. I'm a country boy. So fried chicken and mac and cheese is like M&M. That's just like a snack you walk by and grab. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, man, I started looking around. I got 2 little kids, man. I'm like, you know what? If you're going to be around here for these kids long term, man, you got to change. And so I cut out the sugar, the bread, the rice, a lot of the carbs. I lost about 45, and so I walk around at about 280 now, and I feel really, really good about life now, buddy.
Who's the biggest man you've faced when you were playing?
Wow. Probably Larry Allen. I mean, Larry Allen would break the huddle, and this is no lie. He would break the huddle. He's probably 335, 340, about 6'3". I mean, arms big as most people's thighs, and he'd have a dip in. And it was the most intimidating thing I'd ever seen when you see a guy that big break the huddle with a dip in his mouth.
Defensive players talk about Larry Allen with such reverence, probably more so than any other offensive lineman in history. Everybody has, it feels like, a Larry Allen story, or defensive players would sick out. It's like when you knew you were left-hand facing Randy Johnson and you're a left-handed hitter, all of a sudden you got sick. You'd take yourself out of the lineup. Larry Allen did that to defensive players.
Well, I think us as defensive players, we recognize greatness. I mean, most offensive linemen are fat, slow, can't move. They just want to get in the way, hold. They always need help. They always ask for double teams. And so when you go against some of the truly great ones, like a Larry Allen, like a Steve Hutchinson, like a Walter Jones, you recognize the greatness that they are. And I think it's just a respect factor, which I'm pretty sure if you ask some of the offensive linemen about some of the great defensive linemen you go against, I think you feel that same respect when it comes to, guys like a Warren Sapp or a Derek Brooks or a Kevin Green. Like when you go against great guys, you respect greatness.
Your role on Monday Night Football, you're outside on the Boogermobile, but you're out there in all the elements, no matter what. So if it's snowing hard, raining hard, you're out there no matter what, right?
Absolutely.
There is no circumstance where you're allowed in the booth.
Well, here's the deal. We've been fortunate this year. We haven't encountered anything crazy. I'm sure if it started lightning, and I think the NFL will probably cancel the game. But nobody would have to tell me, hey, you need to get down. Because if I see a strike of lightning, I'm getting down, and, they're going to have to do a 2-man broadcast, and without me. But the weather's been good so far. It was a little chilly in Green Bay. We got a little mist in Seattle. It wasn't really that bad. So weather-wise, we've been good this year.
You get yelled at?
You know what? Here's the thing about it. People always say, man, I just yelled at Booger for 4 quarters. Here's what they don't realize. I got a headset on, and I can't hear anything, number one. Number two, most of the fans have been very, very cordial. I'll say 99% of the fans have been cordial before and after the game. I walk up and down the sideline, sign autographs, take pictures. There was one guy who had a sign who said something, but the overwhelming majority of the fans have been really, really cordial to me and hospitable in most stadiums that I've gone in. I think the biggest attention for the setup that I have came about mid-season. There was this fan from New York who came to Atlanta to see the Giants play the Falcons. And he took a video, and because he's a quote-unquote super fan, whatever the hell that means, he sent this video out, and people just started following. And just like anything, social media is built on negativity. And so I had 100,000 people saying, man, get out of the way. And I'm saying to myself, you know what? 99% of you guys have never even been in the stadium where I've been at, but just to kind of get on the perception reality train. Everybody jumped on. But since then, it really hasn't been a big deal. I think the whole idea of it has been really, really good this year, and hopefully fans have enjoyed the coverage.
Talking to Booger McFarland of the Mothership, their Monday night game. It's Denver against the Oakland Raiders. Best defense you've seen so far this year is?
Wow. You know what? Defense, man, I mean, the Cowboys' defense was pretty good. I think the Rams' defense has the potential to be really good. The Saints are playing well at the right time. I don't think there's a dominant defense or a dominant team in the league, Dan. I think there are several defenses that have the potential when they need to get a stop. And ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to.
But could the Bears win on just defense alone? Could the Bears go to the Super Bowl?
No, because as good as the Bears are defensively, and they are truly good, I still think Mitchell Trubisky is going to have to make a couple plays. And here's the plays I'm talking about. I'm not talking about scramble around, run around, and everybody gets up screaming, Mitch. I'm talking about at some point it's going to be 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. He's going to have to drop back, plant his back foot, and throw something about a 15, 18-yard dig. And he's got to do that in probably cold weather. He's got to do that in probably a hostile environment. I think that's the thing that I need to see from him to be more consistent. Now, that defense is really great, but you're going to have to score points to win. And I think he can do it. I just need to see it against a New Orleans, maybe down in the Dome. I need to see it against the Rams out in L.A. Yeah. That'll be the test for him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think same with Jared Goff. These are the two quarterbacks I have the biggest concerns, but the upside is you could go to the Super Bowl. The downside is you could lose your first game. Goff, with where they are, Gurley's banged up. They just don't feel like they're in sync quite as – they feel like they're a little more vulnerable here. The most dangerous team going into the postseason will be who?
Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay. All right.
I think they're the best football team on the other side of the conference. When I say other side, I mean the AFC. Everybody's talked so much about Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and Dan, don't get me wrong, they've been phenomenal. But I think if you looked at top to bottom, who the most complete team is, offensively, defensively, special teams-wise, I would lean toward the Chargers over the Chiefs. I'm not going to ever discount Brady and Belichick, but I think the news yesterday with Josh Gordon is going to hurt them at some point. Pittsburgh being just too inconsistent for me defensively, I would put a little coin toward the Chargers and feel pretty good about it.
Going into the playoffs, the most valuable non-quarterback is who?
Aaron Donald, because if Aaron Donald plays great and dominates, here's what he does. Number one, he makes plays, but number two, he kind of sets the table for everybody else. With Dante Fowler Jr. and Ndamukong Suh, maybe he'll come out of hiding and get off the Bill Carton at some point. If Donald is Donald, to me, he's the best defensive player in the game, and that's no disrespect to Khalil Mack, J.J. Watt, or any of those guys. But I just feel when you have a dominant force coming up the middle of your offense, it's different than an edge guy.
Best team is who?
Wow. I'll give you one from each conference. I'll give you the Chargers on the AFC side, and on the NFC side, I know it doesn't look like it, but I'm still going to lean toward the Rams because I think over the last 2 years, if you just look at a 2-year sample, what the Rams have done, I think they've been the most consistent. Now, they haven't always played well because their offensive line really got punked by the Eagles, but I think I'm going with the 2-year sample. I'm going with the fact that Sean McVay might be one of, if not the most innovative minds I've seen in a long time. And I'm just going to lean on consistency. And I think Talib and Peters on the defensive side with Donald and, Jared Goff, if they can protect Jared Goff, I think Jared Goff can get it done. But I, like you, have the most questions about he and Trubisky.
Cam Jordan of the Saints, with the Steelers coming to town, talked about Ben Roethlisberger not being one of the greats of this era, talking about is he a Hall of Famer. Your thoughts? If Cam Jordan was your teammate and you heard that he had said those comments, you're a locker over from Cam Jordan. What do you say?
Oh, I don't say anything at all. Here's what I say. I say, you know what? You created and kind of started the hornet's nest, but guess what? No problem, because once you get out there on the field, Dan, and this is the thing about bulletin board material and talking, it's good for us because we got 3 or 4 hours to fill on shows and newspapers to write and columns. But once that ball is kicked down in New Orleans, Ben Roethlisberger is not going to break the huddle saying, man, I got to go prove Cam Jordan right or wrong. He's going to break the huddle trying to score points. Now, the post-game press conference will probably be a little bit livelier if the Steelers win, and vice versa if the Saints win. But, to that point, I do think Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer. I think Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. I think Eli Manning, although I don't think he gets in as quick as those other two, I do think eventually he'll get in also.
All right, but if I said you had to pick, you're starting your team with Rivers or Roethlisberger, and you know how they've played in their career, you know what you got. Who you starting your team with?
I'm taking Phillip Rivers. To me, he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks we've seen in a long time. And it's no disrespect to the accolades and the numbers that Ben Roethlisberger has put up. I just like the toughness. I just like what Phillip Rivers does. He gets lost out there on the West Coast. I get it. I remember the guy who played a game with a torn ACL. He put a brace on. The guy's got 9 kids, I think, right now, Dan. There's something about a guy that can play football, drive an hour and a half every day from San Diego to Los Angeles to suit up with his team. I just like the moxie of the guy. And to me, no disrespect, but every time Ben Roethlisberger, holds the press conference, Ben is going to tell you the state of Ben and the state of everybody else. I just like the demeanor of Phillip Rivers more. But Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer, but I'll take Rivers on my end.
Yeah, I just need Rivers to have more playoff wins than children. That's what I want him to have at the end of his career. And he's got a little ways to go there, Booger. All right?
Yeah, listen, I know. And he and his wife, I said they have 9. Number 9 is on the way. I just think this may be his best opportunity. And if we're going to talk about, Phillip Rivers, then, we also have to give Anthony Lynn a lot of credit for what he's done with that football team. How many of us thought they were going to go into Kansas City and get a win? I didn't. But when you look at the manner in which they did it, no Melvin Gordon, they were down early. Everything about that game said fold over and roll over and quit, but they didn't. I just like where they're headed, man.
Booger, good to talk to you. Hope you've enjoyed the season and have fun with the Raiders and the Broncos coming up on Monday night.
Dan, it was a pleasure, man. Anytime. I've always followed you for a long time, man. Glad to be on your show and would love to come on anytime again, bud.
Thank you. We'll take you up on that. Booger McFarland, happy holidays to you, Booger. ESPN Monday Night Football analyst, 8:15 Eastern. They'll have the Raiders against the Broncos.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.